All right. We're live. We got a full house, Lazy Lab Podcast, episode 4. And it's a fun one today. I am really excited, but I want to go around the room. Of course, I'm Matt Kachara. I'm your host of the Lazy Lab Podcast. And with me today, I have some very special friends that are going to be talking about dogs. Talking about dogs today. It's a very cool subject, one that I'm very passionate about myself. And I'm looking forward to hearing what everyone has to say. But let's just go around the room and we'll start at the top with Jeri. Go ahead, Jeri, introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. Appreciate it. So my name is Jeri Sheats. I'm here on the East Coast, right in Delaware, beautiful tropical Delaware. We actually had a little bit of snow today for one of our first days of spring. Anyway, so I've been lifelong hunter, mainly waterfowl. So of course, you know, our dogs have been a big part of our lives. Not only being our tools in the field, but also big babies in the house. I've done some light hunt test training, as well as running dogs up to like the senior level. My emphasis has always been on very well-trained, well-behaved hunting companions, and the hunt test thing kind of becomes second. It's like a fun extra game to play. And I do believe that the best hunt test dogs make the best hunting dogs. So other than that, I have 2 little kids along with my 1 black lab, Tank, right now. Little Jeri, who's 3, Charlotte, who's 7. Tank is actually also 7.
Right
along
on.
Along with my wife, Pamela. I guess I should mention the wife as
well. It's all family, Todd, go ahead.
Yeah, so Todd Vranich, like Jeri, just a lifelong hunter. I'm into my 3rd dog now, and kind of switched breeds. I was always a lab guy. Now I've went with a puddle pointer. I'm mixed. I do more upland now than I do waterfowl. That's kind of why I've kind of went to the pointer breed. But it's great, versatile. She'll do everything that I ask her to do. I manage a hunting club in Washington State called the Family Hunting Club. We have about 80 members, and so it keeps me busy through the fall.
I'll say, yeah. Moving down to the bottom right, Larry.
Yeah, thanks. Larry Moores. I'm a retired career Army officer. Got my first hunter safety when I was 12 years old. Took a long break from hunting, being in the military and being deployed a lot, but back into it. Have a German wire-haired pointer. My wife and I live out here in the Northwest, pretty close to Todd, and enjoy mostly upland, but do quite a bit of duck hunting when I can as well.
All right, DJ.
Hey, my name is DJ Derozers. I'm co-founder and chairman of the board for Lazy Lab, lifelong hunter, veteran, and today's actually my wife and I's anniversary, and there's no better way to spend this than being here with you guys. And luckily I can say that because this isn't going to come out until way after tonight when she gets home. But I've had duck dogs all my life, and lived through some of the challenges of trying to train a dog while also being deployed. 2 kids, David and Madeline, and of course my wife Stacy. I love you.
Happy anniversary, DJ. Happy anniversary.
Thank you. Okay. 15 good years.
Holy smokes. Good for you. Lacey?
Yeah, my name's Lacey Charbonneau. I actually have never been hunting before, but I'm a veterinary technician. I've been in the field of veterinary medicine and animal behavior for a little over 13 years now. I personally have a Labrador Retriever. It's my personal favorite breed, but I'm familiar with the German Shorthair Pointers as well, so my family tends to like those.
Right on. I have a 13-year-old miniature Schnauzer. He's not good for really anything but yapping, but he has traveled the world with me and proven himself to be quite the companion dog. If a Schnauzer could be that, he's not much for like rough housing and stuff, but he'll fetch. So So obviously the name of the podcast is the Lazy Lab Hunting Club podcast. Lazy Lab Hunting Club is the nonprofit that we represent on this show. And I know that there's an interesting story behind the name Lazy Lab, and I'm not sure if DJ wanted to share that story of why it's called Lazy Lab Hunting Club. Where does that? What's the origin story there?
So the origin started way back when I was E3 back in the Navy. I finally had money for the first time in my life, and what I was going to spend it on was a world-class retriever dog. His name was Talus, son of Storm Riptide Star, only chocolate lab ever to win national field champion. Mother had very similar accolades. Spent a fortune on this dog. Loved Talus to death. Ended up being one of the best friends I ever had in my life, and wouldn't change anything, any way he acted for anything in the world. However, fast forward a year later, after I sent him to Weller Kennels in North Carolina, they did a great job with him. But the problem we had is that Talus, being a lab, was afraid of the water and liked to lay down. So he was the laziest dog I've ever had in my life. So terrible, terrible, terrible hunting dog, but the best companion dog I've ever had in my life. You know, the symbol you see with Lazy Lab, the original logo, which looked like a kindergarten drew it back in 2007, was actually a picture of Talus.
All right, right on. So that raises the question then, and we kind of get into topic number one here, which is what do you look for in a puppy specifically if the desire to train him or her for hunting upland and waterfowl that's your mission. What do you look for in a puppy, with the understanding that you could run into a DJ situation and get a dog that just doesn't really have the appetite for hunting?
Yeah, I think DJ had a great start on it. Look at the parents and look at the grandparents. And I think generally a puppy is going to turn out temperament-wise, drive-wise, the willingness to please, those important characteristics, they're going to be a lot like their parents. I mean, every once in a while, I guess one of the pups will run off the rails on you, but I think that's the place to look. And for health reasons as well. You know, a lot of these dogs, breeds, have different strange health concerns with them. I think almost all of the breeds we'll be talking about have hip dysplasia things that can occur with them, and the parents are a great indicator of that. Wire hairs have a thyroid thing. Most of the breeders have gotten through that, but it's something to look at, and the thing to look at first is the parents.
Yeah,
Okay.
I definitely agree with that. I think it's the old argument, nature versus nurture there. When you're looking towards the, I guess, the breed for hunting, I think the type of breed is super important. A lot of people go for the typical hunting breeds, but they don't look into what they can handle personally as a trainer. When you're going to a litter of puppies, you know, they always say, look for the one that runs to you first, or look for the one that's most active. And all those characteristics of those puppies, they are going to turn into that when they get older. And so if you're looking for a lab that's going to be able to run, you know, hours at a time and be active, then you're going to want to take that puppy that's kind of the neurotic one of the litter, even though that's the one that everybody says to stay away from, because any puppy with a good training can do the things that you ask of it as long as you put the work and the time into it. But for the medical reasons, I totally agree. Look at the parents, because you know, you want to make sure that they've gotten their hips checks and all those kinds of things, because if it runs in the blood, then you know, most likely you're looking at it running in your puppy as well.
Yeah, and you know, I agree with all those things, but also, you know, nowadays, even for us hardcore hunters, our hunting dogs aren't just hunting dogs anymore. Like, I think it was the old school way that, like, your hunting dog stays outside. You know, I have family members, you know, even just my father and my uncles, that their hunting dogs stayed outside all the time. Whereas now, you know, our companions are inside. They're also our pets, right? My lab sleeps in my bed every night. You know, he's probably on the couch right now. But I will say, with some of these real hard charging like field trial dogs, that's not a dog for everybody. Because that has been the hard charging has been bred into them so much. They're to be a field trial dog, and I would say like that's where Tank comes from, is field champions, amateur field champions all day in his pedigree. I would never say a first-time handler, first-time hunting dog owner to choose his breed, because it would be too much for them to handle in the house, out of the house, the whole 9 yards. I think a good, solid, healthy hunt test breed would be better for the first-time handler, right, or for your first dog. So knowing, also if they're going to be in the house, they're going to be your companion. Can you handle that dog, in your family? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I agree a lot with what Jeri said there. You need to, pick a dog for the kind of hunting style that you're going to do, and for the personality you are and your family is. Because that's a big part of it, is getting the right breed, the right temperament that's going to match with you and what you're asking of it.
For sure.
So what are the different types? If I'm brand new to it and I want to get a dog for hunting, what am I considering then when I'm looking at a breed and puppies? What is it that I should think about as far as the sport, right? What sport am I looking at? It's waterfowl. It's if I'm a runner, if I'm a hiker, what am I thinking about when it comes to the dog? Because I know that there are differences in the types of hunting dogs that are out there.
So that's the first question you really have to ask is, what do you want out of the dog? Is it going to be purely a waterfowl hunting companion? Is it going to be upland bird? Is it going to be a mixture of both? Because there are very good breeds out there that are more of a universal. Won't be the greatest, field champion at a specific hunting style. However, it's a great overall dog. Once you answer that question, the next thing you need to do is do research, read on each breed. Also, reach out to other hunters out there who, one, have the type of dog that you are thinking about bringing into your family. Also, other hunters, okay, what kind of dogs have they had? Because like down here in South Carolina, you have a swamp poodle. What are those called?
Golden retriever?
No, it's a spaniel. It's a Boykin spaniel. Yeah. So all my hunting buddies down here all have Boykin spaniels for duck dogs. I mean, you're talking about a dog that's bringing back a goose the size of itself. But they do a great job. I never would have thought even to look into them, but now that I've seen them perform, that's my next dog. That's going to be one of them on my list.
Yeah, I think where you live is a consideration as well, and where you hunt most often. Yeah, I have a wire hair, and I'll tell you, when you go hit Montana in September for sharptails, and he's getting hot fast. They got a lot of hair on him, But I can hunt him on ducks in the winter back here in Washington, so he's pretty adaptable. But you get out in the hot weather, and he doesn't take to it like, say, an English pointer would, or a short hair would adapt to that. But those dogs aren't going to be out there, as a general statement, going after ducks in frigid temperature. I mean, short hairs will, but on occasion. So it's a consideration with the type of terrain, and even going down into the desert and getting into rocks and cactus and that type of thing, and all those are considerations.
So I'm hearing where you live,
Yeah, I totally
what you want to
agree
do,
that,
right? Got a little delay with Lacey. Go ahead, Lacey.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Lacey.
I totally agree that the temperament of your dog and how it's going to perform for you, I think, is really important in sports and any sport that you want your dog to do for you. But I also think your ability to keep them safe is kind of paramount to anything. A lot of people don't realize how fast heat stroke can happen in a dog and how fast frostbite can happen in a dog. they can't sweat. You know, a lot of people think they sweat out of their paws and stuff, and their panting is their only ability to keep them cool. And you know, some people will shave the hair off the bottom of the paws, which is actually a big mistake, but then you get the burrs and everything. So I think you're absolutely correct that your ability to keep the pet safe and it is kind of your first step to picking what breed, and depending on what area you're in, that's really important.
I had labs growing up, right? And they tend to do well in like all weather, according to my experience with them. And I wonder too, like, does their athleticism play into the terrain? Like are all hunting dogs athletic, or are there some that are more athletic than others and makes them more adaptable to different terrains? Like, how do you know those things aside from jumping on Google? Like, where can you get like trustable information on dog breeds? That yeah, if I go to, I'm asking a question like really poorly right now, which is not typical of me. But if I go to Google right now, right? If I go to Google right now and I type in top 5 hunting dogs for bird hunting, okay, I'll probably get some pretty standard results back. But who's to say that those results are going to be general and not based on my terrain and not based on my family and not based on, how do I really suss out what is best for me? Like, if I'm thinking about all those considerations, what's the source of truth for those questions? Because obviously Google is going to return the most popular answers, but that may not play into my personal situation.
I think it might come down to the line's trainability, right? You could say a lab is a lab, right? Whether it's an English bred or an American bred, or whatever the case may be, but certain lines will have better trainability than others, right? And I think what you're asking, if I could be way off, Matt, but I think what you're asking is that's what it goes back to. If you whittled it all down, simplified it, like, can I train this dog enough to be able to be reliable in tough hunting situations, right? And go over and through heavy cover, heavy terrain, currents, that sort of thing, not give up on me. Those sort of things, and being able to be trained to do what was asked of it, right? I think that's the only way that the dog will become what you want it to be, right? Is the trainability in that line. And hopefully wherever we get our dogs from, that we have good, reputable breeders that do their absolute best to do away with the not so desirable traits, right? In training, in the health issues that all of these lines deal with. They all have their own thing, right? But that would be, in my opinion, that's what I would look for. Number one is trainability. If I've got it whittled down to here's about the breed I want, here's the climate conditions I hunt in, right? It's colder. Maybe an English lab where I'm at is a little bit better than an American lab. Maybe I don't want something so crazy, wiry, attitude. So I'm going to go with like a yellow or a chocolate versus a black dog. And I've whittled all these things down. Trainability is going to be the next big thing I'm going to look for.
Like the intelligence of the breed, like yeah. I guess the question too comes down to like, okay, if the dog breeder is there to, like, what is their role in that process? Making sure that that the dog you're getting is fit for purpose. If is a reputable breeder, do they have a hand in making sure that they're not sending dogs to situations that dog is not fit for purpose for that owner? And I think that that's probably an important avenue to discuss, because I mean, they could slap a price tag on a puppy, right? But at the end of the day, you want to make sure that puppy's going to a family situation where they're going to have a fulfilled life, right? That's an important thing. And to Larry's point on the terrain aspect of it, if I'm a breeder of a wired hair pointer, I don't necessarily want to sell that dog to someone who lives in Arizona, to do hunting, right? Because they're not going to be able to hunt for 9-10 months out of the year. So what role does the breeder play in making sure that they do that? And how do you find that reputable breeder that does have that ethical fortitude to make the right choices?
Yeah, I definitely think
a lot of that is word of mouth and and your friends and your network. I think that's how we all get a lot of our dogs is by, you had a friend who had a good pups from this line, from that line. And I know the last dog that I got, and she's going to be 3 this year. I mean, I felt like I was, applying for the highest paying job in the United States. I mean, I was grilled up one side, down the other. I mean, it really was. I mean, I know he was not going to let any of his dogs go to households that weren't, the right condition. And a big part of it is the hunting of them. A lot of people get dogs, they think they're going to do this, think they're going to do that, and they're just really not that into hunting, and they turn into a family dog. And that's the last thing that the breeder I got my dog from, he's like, that's the last thing he wanted for his dogs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I had a similar experience. I mean, you basically apply for the dog, and and I think the good breeders have, they're on a good footing with doing that. They want their dogs to go into a family, till a point where that dog's going to be safe and happy. And I think the good breeders look out for that. The other thing, talking about coming into this cold, which in a way I did after many years of not hunting and not having a dog, go out and to Todd's point too, talk to people. A good source are like NAVDA chapters, North American Versatile Hunting Dog Association. Just, people almost always willing to talk, and you'll see a variety of dogs, dog trainers, good reputable dog trainers, see a lot of different breeds and a lot of different bloodlines. And you just go out and ask a lot of questions. The worst thing that's going to happen is you're going to be told they don't have time for you. The best thing that's going to happen is you're going to get a great conversation and meet some great people that can steer you in the right direction. And that's just really, really important to feel comfortable with the breeder of the dog you're going to get.
And that's the one thing you'll notice. Having a hunting dog it's a tool in a way to achieve a goal, but it's more than that. It's a way of life. So, like talking to Jeri, when I was going to look for my lab, golly, what was that? 18 years ago now. I talked to Jeri. Jeri got me in contact with a bunch of his friends, a bunch of trainers he knew. People in the sporting dog community, that's what they live, breathe, and eat. That's what they like to talk about. And it's great. It's a great community to be a part of because, they're looking out for you. They're looking out for the animal, because, just like Larry and Todd said, the reputable dealers or reputable breeders, they don't have to sell their dogs.
Yeah.
I mean, they have a long list of clientele looking to purchase their animals. So they're children to them. If you ever go to purchase a dog and it seems a little bit shady, that's a question you got to ask yourself. Hey, do I really want to go through with this? Because one, when you bring a dog into your life, it's not a one time. He'll be gone in 2 or 3 months. If it doesn't work out, I'm sending him to the pound. Good, bad, or indifferent, he's in your life for the next 10 to 15 years. So it's important to do as much research and talk to as much people up front as possible to understand that, one, hey, I'm getting a breed that's important to my lifestyle, important to what I want to accomplish, and is going to be that friend that's going to be next to your side. I mean, because Well, when I got out of the military, I'll put it this way: I've cried twice in my adult life. When my grandma died, I cried 8 months later when it finally hit me because I was growing up to be a big burly man. We don't cry. And then the other time I cried was the day I put Talus down. I wouldn't let the vet touch Talus. I carried him to my truck. I wouldn't let my wife touch him. That was the saddest day of my life I can remember. And he was around for 11 years. So that's the kind of commitment that you're getting into. So you have to take it seriously.
Yeah, it's an important point, right? It's obviously like our dogs become part of the family, and they see themselves that way too. It's not just a commitment from us, but they're committing to us when they walk in the door and become part of the household. They're automatically sussing out, they're figuring out where they belong in the pack, and all that stuff is happening to them. So how to communicate with us and when's their next meal? How do I get outside? Right. That's all things that dogs care about. And obviously they want to be around you. They want that affection. They aim to please. That's what's cool about dogs. And that's why I've never been a cat person. So, but there are some, it's been mentioned on the call. So there's some major or common concerns when it comes to hunting breeds and health, right? So speaking of taking care of them and looking after them, there are some things to consider as well from that side of things. So what are some of I know we talked about the hips, Larry had mentioned the thyroid thing. What are some of the common things that you see across hunting breeds that you want to look for in those parental lines?
Lacey, you want to jump in on this? I think you probably have the most experience out of all of us.
As far as the health goes for the hunting breeds, I mean, you talked about the hips and thyroid issues and stuff like that, but also I think prevention, parasite prevention in particular, is something that is a must if your dog is going to be outside running around, depending upon what part of the country you live in. Fleas, ticks, and mites, biting flies, all kinds of parasites can plague your pet. But not just that, but putting a duck in their mouth or a bird in their mouth that could have all kinds of parasites in their feces and stuff like that. You get intestinal parasites that can cause anemia. And the problems with these things is that they're pests, and they do cause discomfort, and they can become a pest in your environment. Once they enter your house, they're really hard to get rid of out of your yard and your carpets and everything. But they also cause secondary diseases, heartworm prevention as well. A big myth is that you don't need to give parasite prevention if it's cold out, and if that were true, then come summertime there would be no more bugs left because they all died out in the winter. And it's just not true. And so I think that it's really important to keep your pet protected against these kinds of parasites and things like heartworms, every month, all 12 months out of the year. And the type of prevention that you use is really important as well, I believe.
And another thing that
gets
overlooked is injuries. On these are all athletes, man. They get hurt. And one of the guys in our club just had a knee worked on with his lab here last week and had to get it rebuilt. And a lot of people overlook that and don't consider that when they're getting a dog. But usually during your lifetime, your dog, you're gonna be at the vet getting fixed up, and you gotta include that into your thought process when you're getting these dogs.
They had a knee that had to get rebuilt.
Yeah, he blew his knee out, and so they had to do the tendons in the knee.
Tank's had both of his.
Yeah, big bucks.
Yeah, about $5,000 a pop.
Yeah, there's an old saying: if you can't afford the vet, don't get the pet.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So now, and that's something else. I mean, that is a big part of it. We always joked in our retriever club, like, oh, all I did was buy a dog, because buying your dog is the cheapest thing you're going to do. Even when they're $2,000, $2,500 or whatever it is, that's still the cheapest thing you're ever going to do with that dog. And if you're going to send it away to a professional trainer, that's going to cost $500 to $1,000 a month. You know, I know Tank has spent about 12 plus months away with a professional trainer, titled the whole 9 yards, blew both his knees out, and he's retired at 7 years old. You know what I mean? And I'm completely fine with that. You know, we don't do this because there's no ROI in a lab, right? I'm not getting that money back ever. I'm not worried about that, right? But what is important to us is keeping him happy and healthy, right? So now Tank's life now is the good life in the house and going on easy, warmer weather hunts, right? I won't take him into the muddy marsh, super cold, where he's going to be getting his legs stuck and twisting and turning. He's in easy field stuff, light swimming. You know what I mean? That's just what it is. So yeah, that I don't feel like I'm the worst case scenario, but that's a real thing that can happen when you have high hopes for your lab or your hunting dog that you buy and you put through training and all this, that, and the other thing. Well, yeah, you're staring down the barrel of some big bills. It's just part of the overall commitment. You know what I mean? You, like DJ said,
Yeah.
You're in it for the next decade. That's one of your children. You know what I mean? You're not going to give it away. You can't throw it away. That's what it is. You know what I mean? So Tank's happy. That's all that matters to me.
Another part of the athleticism is a lot of dogs, they don't show you pain. It's become one of those things people talk about with versatile breeds like little pointers and wire hairs and short hairs. Like they just run right through it, and so you got to keep your eye on them about how they're feeling. So I have some things like I watch constantly: eyes, ears, nose, feet, and how they're pooing. It tells you a lot about what's going on with them. And there's the stuff that I really worry about, and not necessarily in the perfect order, but it's like porcupines. Can you handle what happens if your dog gets on a porcupine? Snakes, skunks, and ticks. And those things, you go from happy times to sad times real quickly, encountering some of those things out in the field. And the last one I would say, which goes back to the nose, ears, eyes part, is grass awns. In the East, when I was back East, I never even thought about it. I didn't even know what they were. Out here in the West, cheatgrass seeds, the little seeds that grow off that stuff, they go everywhere. It's almost like a midget porcupine quill. And I had to have some taken out of my dog. They crawl up, so they get between the dog's toenail and the flesh, and they'll crawl right up inside the dog's foot. And I had to have some taken out of my dog. So it's just something to be conscious of, because they'll get up in a nasal cavity and then they're heading toward the lungs. So it is, you have to keep your eye on your dog, is kind of the bottom line on it. And I just use those things to watch to see how my dog is doing.
Porcupines. That sounds like something that is really unpleasant to go through as a spectator, let alone a dog.
Yeah, some dogs learn fast. Like, my dog was real slow on snakes. Knock on wood, real quick on learning the danger of porcupines. He took a snoot from a porcupine one time, and he's probably pointed 5 of them since then. And snakes, he's never been bit, but the snake aversion training just didn't. It took a while to latch on. Let's put it that way.
That sounds
That's really important.
It sounds like they can help. They're a companion for you there, right? Like they're helping you by pointing a snake. Now you know that snake is there, right? That's because
I'd rather they just kept moving. Best you don't know is the way I look at snakes.
All right. I think
Larry,
Lacey
you
had
make a really
something.
good point with the grass-ons. We remove those all the time, and that reminds me of a client I used to have a while back, and he did a lot of hunting, and he was out of West Texas. And another thing I wanted to mention that you kind of reminded me of when you brought that up was that the mouth is a really important part to check after being out in the field or anything like that. So the dog explores the world with their mouth. They don't have hands or feet like, that we explore the world with our hands. They explore the world with their mouth. And I can't tell you how many times a dog has stopped eating, or his dogs would stop eating, or they'd be drooly. And it was because they had either a stick or a grass on that was stuck in the roof of their mouth and had been there for weeks. And he's like, oh, I went hunting last weekend, and you're right, it's been since then, since the bad smell or the trouble bin. But that's a really important place to check for, and between the toes. And you're absolutely correct. Those things, once they go in, they're designed to go in one direction, and they will keep going whether there's an organ in the way or bone. They just keep working their way nice and slowly in one direction. So those are nasty things.
Jeez. Speaking, changing direction slightly. Speaking of eating, let's talk about just health and upkeep of the dog. We're talking about kibble versus raw diet, vitamins, all that fun stuff. What's best for a dog? I'm gonna keep going here just for a second. When I go into the pet store for food, I now see these refrigerators with like fresh or freshish. I don't know how fresh it is, but they're full of dog food. What is best? What should we be using?
I think it was Todd or Larry that said a minute ago that these dogs are athletes. And I think it has a lot to do with what your dog's training or activity level is going to be the first thing you got to look at, right? So just like us, right? If we're, my dietary needs are a lot different than NFL football players' dietary needs in season, right? Same thing with the dog. Is the dog training? Is he with a pro trainer and he's training 6-7 days a week, multiple times a day? His dietary needs are going to be a little bit different than a dog that goes hunting half a dozen times a year, right? So I think it just depends on what your dog needs, right? I think I've only ever fed my dog dry food. I don't get into the real raw diet and all that jazz. I don't know any hunting or hunt test people that do. I've only seen like people with little foo-foo dogs that do that, but that might just be the circle I run. I don't know. But to me, Pro Plan has always been the best and I've just fed that, with all my dogs dry, more if we're training a lot, less if we're not.
I do the same thing. I'm kibble, but I do put stuff on top. I put a product called Simple Greens on top, just to enhance, a lot of their vitamins and amino acids and stuff that I think might get kind of burned out on some of the kibble. And I stick with some of the Canadian brands. I think some of the Canadian brands use, they have to use basically a food grade product that you or I eat. And so I kind of steer towards them, and I stick with the performance during hunting season. And then I take them off of that, on the off season. And I usually will change the food up at least three times a year. I'll change the food up. And
you notice their mood change when you change their food? They're like, oh, I was getting the good stuff, but now I'm getting.
No, not especially since I put that Simple Greens on there. No, not at all. She just devours no matter what I put down, and she's a good eater. Not picky at all. So
yeah.
Can of green beans on dry food every day here.
Green beans on the dry
food. A little bit. Yep, they add a little bit of more nutrients to the food. But I'm kind of the same way. It's always dry food. My mom has a mutt that she adopted. She does 100% raw diet. It is expensive. I think she's got to spend almost $100 a week on feeding her dog. But I can say this: the coat and that dog is the healthiest dog I've ever seen in my life. So I think there's some truth to it, but it's expensive.
The only thing I do a little bit different, not really, I pretty much support what everyone said. We use Dr. Tim's as an example, dry food, but mostly during the hunting season, I always float the food, put water in it, so it's not pure dry to them. The food is dry, and that's just a hydration thing. And we use toppers as well. So
Maybe a raw egg every
I'd like to
once in a
chime
while.
here on the nutrition thing, if that's all right. This question I get asked so many times. It's one of the most common questions in my field is, what do I feed my dog? And I think everybody's got a different theory on it. Everybody's got their own idea. And it depends too, because everybody's doing something different with their dog. You know, the English bulldog that sits on the couch watching TV all day doesn't need the same diet that the Labrador who's out running around in the field all day needs. I think that if you're looking for a new brand of food or the best brand of food for your dog, the most important things are that it's a balanced diet. There's a lot of grain-free foods that are going around out there, and all of that came about out of really a myth. And you know, dog food companies, there's dog food companies, most of them are looking to market their food. And so if an idea is sticking with the public and people are buying their food, they're going to stick with that idea, whether it's, you know, maybe best for the dog or not. And that's where the grain-free and the raw diet things have come into play here. The grain-free food came out of the myth that dogs need a high-protein diet. And the problem with the high protein is that dogs can't store protein in their body. And so any excess protein that they eat, that they're not, you know, if they're not bodybuilding, their body has to get rid of that. And so what you're doing when you put 3 times the amount of protein in a dog food is you're working the kidneys and the renal system 3 times harder than they need to for a long period of time, depending on how long you have them on that food. And so I think if you're looking for a good food, you want to make sure it's balanced, because you can't go wrong when your diet is a balanced, healthy diet. And I think also that, you know, you want to stay away from fad or boutique diets or something that might be popular and not researched, because if it's no science behind it and they're not researched, then you're putting your dog at a risk by going down that alley.
So if your dog is overweight, do not do a low carb Atkins diet. That's it's
I think that
I was waiting because I know Lacey's on a delay, so I don't know if she found that funny or not.
Lacey was not amused at your jokes, man.
I have to put I put fish oil with my Schnauzer's food, because he's got like human type hair. I guess it's like hyperallergenic in a sense, so that he gets real flaky if you don't have that. You know, there's a lot of dander buildup, so we use fish oil for that. So I think it's important to know those things, to talk to your vet. That was a vet recommendation, to use the fish oil, to make sure that you're giving your dog what they need and what makes sense for them. Larry, I'd never heard of the float the food thing. I think that's pretty interesting from a hydration standpoint. That's one thing I think people don't consider. Like, your average dog owner is not putting a lot of thought into the hydration piece. And I lived in Texas for a number of years, and obviously it gets very hot there. And there was, I used to, when we were out and about, always carry extra water, not just for my dog, but for other people's dogs, because it seemed like every time we would go out on the trails or for a hike or something, there'd be someone, you know, whose dog had just quit. You know, they're just sitting down, they don't know what to do. And I think it goes back to that heat exhaustion piece, and being able to have the right equipment to take with you to support your dog while they're out in the field is an important topic to consider as well.
Yeah, get your dog used to drinking out of a human water bottle. You don't have to worry about it. Yeah. That's what we do. All my dogs have been able to drink out of a water bottle better than most kids.
Sippy cup is next.
Yeah, I'm not afraid to share my water bottle with my dog. I've done it plenty of times. He gets a drink, I get a drink. Same water bottle, you know, whatever.
Does he share his kibble with you?
Yeah.
So what are some of the training prerequisites for a dog? Like, what are some of the things that I need to teach them right away? You know, and some of the phases of that, right? Because it does go in phases. And if you're training a hunting dog, I know that there are things that you have to consider as far as, you know, familiarization with loud noises and gun sensitivity and all that stuff that has to be done. How do you start? Where do you start?
Sit, come, stay, right?
That's it. If a
That's
dog
what I'm
can't be a basic, obedient, good citizen, there's no reason to go any further from there. I mean, I think a lot of guys, especially, younger dudes, brand new, they get their dog, they want to get out, shoot over it, get a dead bird in its mouth, do all these things, make it steady. When the dog is 3, 4, 5 months old, there's no reason to keep it steady. There's no reason doing that. Spend 12 weeks in obedience and don't do anything else until the dog is. You could tell the dog to sit and won't move until you tell it to move, or it can reliably come to you on here. Once the dog has that, then go into some retriever training. But the bottom line is, if it can't be obedient, it's not ready to do anything else.
Yeah, I think recall is. I look at it as that's like you don't negotiate on that. So, that's a safety thing. That's just a basic, to Jeri's point, it's a good citizen thing. But it's critical out in the field. Like when you need that dog back to you, the dog needs to come back. And that's like, there's not a lot of leeway that you should give them. That's very, very important. People also talk a lot pointing dogs and training a pointing dog about whether you should teach that dog to sit or not when they're young. And that's, viewed generally from an obedience perspective. Like every obedience trainer you'll talk to will talk about having the dog sit and whether the discussion is whether sit implies stay, but it's just, they don't talk about not teaching the dog to sit. You get into the pointing dog world and many people talk about whether you teach that dog to sit or not. And I'm far from being a dog trainer other than trying to train my own dog. I taught my dog to sit, kind of. I didn't really worry about it as a strict rule that he had to do it, but he just kind of naturally did it, and he was okay with it. But you will hear things like that when you go around talking to trainers and getting into training itself. There are trainers, pointing dog trainers, who would tell you that you never let a dog retrieve a bird until they're steady and won't move on point. So that you hear a lot of things and you see a lot of different things from different trainers, but circling back again to Jeri, good citizenship is got to be there.
I think another thing that a lot of people don't think about, if I might say something real quick, is that a lot of people don't take in the type of dog personality that your dog has too. I'm a firm believer that every dog has an individual personality. And so there's the general basics that you go by too, but I think you got to take a look at, what your animal is doing, what your animal's personality is like, and what will work best for them as well. Because I believe any sport or any activity you do with a dog is a partnership, and you have to pay attention to their needs, their wants as well, and what is working for them and what isn't working for them, and go with that as well.
That's a really good point, Lacey. My current dog, Daphne, it's the darndest thing. And when she goes to retrieve a duck, man, she's on fire getting to that duck. However, she walks back when she has a duck in her mouth. At first, it irritated me because I wanted her to come back fast. So dog does it, goes out, gets the bird, comes back. But after a couple of years, we all just kind of get a laugh out of it now. I let her do her own thing. She runs out there, gets the duck, especially out in the swamp. She's really, really proficient right now. Finding the dog in the tall, or finding the duck in the tall weeds. But as soon as he has that duck in her hand or her mouth, it's like trying to get through the mall at 9:00 in the morning through all those senior citizens who are walking their laps, and that's how slow she goes. So, there's no
she knows
sense
if
in
she
getting.
brings it back, it's over. She knows she's,
That's right.
if she brings it back, the fun's over. So I might as well take my sweet ass time getting there because Dad's just going to take it from me. So
That's exactly how it is. But it's knowing, like Lacey says, knowing your dog. I tried to break her of that, and all it did was hurt our bond and hurt her training or her retrieval ability. So, especially if it's a hunting companion not doing field trials, your dog's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be on point. There's no sense in getting mad about it. Love the dog. When she brings the bird back, tell her she did a good job. hug on her and just let the small mistakes go. Because guess what? A dog's not perfect every time. It's going to make mistakes. As long as it's, not putting the dog in danger, in my opinion, okay, let it happen. And work on that later after the hunt.
So it brings us to, and this will probably be our last question, but we're going to go around the room and everyone gets a chance to answer here. Brings us to the most important question, in my opinion, which is it's important. This is an important question. So I hope you have your A game with your answer, and that is, what is the best hunting breed and why?
Not a chocolate lab. Sorry, that was a jab at DJ. I'm sorry.
Thanks, Jeri.
I told him that when he bought Talus 20 years ago or whatever, but he didn't listen to me. But all right, I apologize, Matt.
So what was the question? It was the best hunting dog? Is that what the question was?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Who wants to kick us off here? So best hunting dog and why?
Well, I'll go. I would say, we kind of touched a little bit on it. It's got to be, what you want out of your dog and what your hunting's going to be. And if you're just, it sounds like Jeri is pretty much just, a waterfowl guy. And so, he doesn't have to worry about a dog that's going to do upland, that can do quail, pheasant, and all of that. And so I've had labs and I've had pointers. And I'm going to say for me and for what I do, which is 30% waterfowl and the rest upland, I really enjoy the pointing breed. Number one, as I've gotten older, gotten a little slower. And where we hunt, I mean, these birds are pressured. I mean, these are wild birds. They're pressured. They're smart. So, the old adage, when your dog gets on them, you're just waltzing behind and making your dog slow down. Now, if you want to shoot these birds, you're running and gunning. You're keeping up with your dog, and you're just, you got to stay up with them when they're hot, and it's about to happen, and you got to kick it into high gear for that last 50 yards or so. And with the labs, with my pointer now, she's so quiet, just sneaky like a snake going through the grass. And man, we get right up on the birds, and it's just awesome on the point. I'm able to go a little slower, so it's a little easier on me. I already had one knee replacement, so I'm going to say for my style of hunting, I really love the little pointer. It's just a great breed, super funny in the house. I mean, just a character, and they're more of a family dog than they are a hunting dog. I mean, just pointed, and she just has us laughing all the time. And I love my labs, though. I really did. They were great. But for my needs right now at my age and my hunting, I'm going to say a puddle pointer.
Yeah, it's definitely got to fit. That is the right response. Is like it has to fit your lifestyle, not just your hunting style, your what area you're at, as far as like what climates you're hunting in, that sort of thing. But everything about your life. How active are you? You're going to take the dog with you everywhere? Is it going to be well behaved? Can you take your dog, through public places, walk down the boardwalk at the beach and not have to be crazy? Like all those things have to come into play to find the best hunting dog for you, because it is an extension of you and your family, right? And your activities and all that. However, if we're talking like a brand new gun dog type person, it just is lost. I don't know what to go. I think a English bred lab that is heavy in the hunting and hunt test lines, because of their temperament, because they're not, wide open 900 miles an hour all the time. They have a great temperament, really good with everything, big hearts, good with kids, good with other dogs, lovable, great pets, the whole 9 yards, as well as, the trainability in these dogs is massive. So if you are just a weekend warrior hunter, it's going to be a great gun dog for you. If you are a little bit heavier into, hunting 3 to 5 times or so a week, plus doing hunt tests in the off season, it can do that. So like all the way around, in my opinion, an English bred lab is going to be the easiest to train, easiest to have in your house, easy easier on you as the handler, especially if you're newer. And I've owned both. My lab now is an American bred field trial black lab, insane, crazy, and I've had a yellow English that was the calmest. I think DJ. Did you ever hunt with Ruger? I don't know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, he was like the best laid back dog ever. You know what I mean? So I've had both extremes in the lab world. But yeah, that's my opinion.
I'll tell you why I have a wire hair. So I don't want to reiterate everything Jeri and Todd said, though I agree with it. I have a wire hair because they're tough, independent dogs. And I hunt chuckers and sharptails a lot. And hunting chuckers out here, you're almost doing as much vertically as you are horizontally. Cover it. I mean, it's tough hunting, to what Todd was saying. And sharptails are a little bit of a step down from there, but it's tough ground that you're covering. I hunt out in Montana for sharptails a lot. And they're just tough dogs. The other side of that coin is they're independent minded, which is very good because they're great at hunting. Like, they think there's a bird, they get wind of something, they're going to track that thing down. The flip side of that coin is they're tough minded dogs that think they're pretty smart and often think they're smarter than I am. And they probably is. But if you want a dog that's going to go out and retrieve and run straight lines, like you'll see labs do, like straight to the bird, grab it and come straight back. Wire hair, like Max, there's something of interest 10 feet off the line, he's going to go do a drive-by and see what's over there. He's still going to get the bird, and he's going to bring it back, and he's going to be running the whole way. But like, he's always out looking for something else out there. And they're, it may be Max, but it's in the breed as well. That independence is tough to deal with training that dog. Training Max to be steady is an ongoing challenge for us. We're running up in the master level now, AKC master level, and it's still a challenge. I had him out training last weekend, and he was breaking on birds again. So, it's two sides of a coin. You got to love them for what they got, and but it will wear you down too.
I've always had labs ever since I was a kid. That's the only dog I've ever had. To kind of Jeri's point, going back, for my lifestyle, a English lab is the most parallels my lifestyle the closest, and the most versatile. However, I find myself nowadays getting more and more into upland hunting, as well as duck hunting, just because I can do that more time throughout the year than duck hunting here in South Carolina. So I'm taking a very hard look at a wired-haired griffin. And everything I've read about them, it's also a very versatile dog that can do upland and waterfowl. Whenever we get convened for this dog conversation in a year, I'll tell you how it goes, but that's what my next dog's going to be. Who knows? Maybe it's also my anniversary present. I still got a couple hours to find out.
Awesome.
Well, I've never been hunting before, so I think that any of the athletic breeds have the capability of being the best hunting breed. I have to give you guys the cop-out answer that the best hunting breed is the one that fits your personality the best, the one you can afford to keep safe, the one that fits your environment and your weather the best, and the one that you're willing to put the effort and the time into creating a bond and a partnership with. But I think they all have the potential to be the best.
Sure.
So athletic dogs, not like English bulldogs who are hunting Cheetos in the couch.
Leave the pug at home.
We all got our role. We all got our role.
That's it. Awesome. Well, listen, I want to thank everyone for being part of the show today. It's been a real pleasure having you on and discussing dogs with you, which is great. I've learned a ton. Hopefully the listener has too. And, I look forward to doing this again. I think we should, and I've talked to Matt, I think we will end up having more dog episodes, and there's definitely room to go down the dog games and some of the other avenues, and maybe get a little more specific and niche with the topic, right? And kind of dive in a little deeper in the weeds on some of this stuff. So thank you so much again. For the listener, you can catch us on YouTube. You can catch us anywhere where you find podcasts. But if you do, please just throw us a subscribe, a follow, a like, or whatever you have, whatever platform you're using. We really appreciate it. It helps grow the podcast and helps get this message out to everyone. Also, if you could, Lazy Lab is a nonprofit, so any donation you throw their way will directly contribute to helping our significantly wounded veterans and family members enjoy hunting and the sport that we've been talking about here. So thank you so much again for listening. God bless, and until next time, we'll see you later.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you, everybody.
Take it easy.
Thanks. Appreciate it.